Hello everyone, and welcome to my Colossal Caverns full guide. This video will aim to explain most, if not all of the things, tricks, strategies and glitches you will need to have a better understanding of how the game actually works and achieve faster times. But first, I would like to introduce myself, and the reason why I am making this video. I am xHaii, a French runner who has been around and playing this game series since late 2009. I mostly go for story mode and ROM hacks, low day runs or restriction runs, depending on what they have to offer. I also speedrun some categories I'm having fun with, and that includes Colossal Caverns ROM hack, which you will know a lot more about in just a few moments. I decided to make this guide because of the activity around this ROM hack since it was released in July 2020. I wanted to bring a new and reliable resource for any player who wants to get involved with Colossal Caverns, whether they are a complete beginner, someone who has played the game a few times over the years, or a more experienced player. Of course, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me by using any of the options shown on screen. I will also put them in the description below. Without waiting any longer, let's get to work. Colossal Caverns is a Pikmin 2 ROM hack made by xHaii. It is based on the cave system and is all about sending you in a huge cave in which you can fight every enemy, every boss, and collect every treasure in the game. The goal is defined by what you personally want to accomplish. However, back when the ROM hack was released, we agreed on a few rules and options to stick with for official speedruns of Colossal Caverns. For example, any person simply consists in getting the key and escaping, whereas all treasures consist in getting all available treasures in the seed before being allowed to escape. Do not worry about having a slow computer. The times we compare are in-game time, which automatically takes into consideration how much lag you had during the seed. Some options originally came with the hack, and new ones are released every now and then to make some quality of life changes or just add even more ways to play the game. You can decide to play with onions, set a higher Pikmin limit, play in first-person view, and more. Widescreen is also recommended to use simply because it lets you view further. In the first clip where widescreen is activated, you can see yellow onion, some treasures glowing in the dark, and even manat legs at some point. The second clip doesn't have widescreen, and you can probably tell the difference in terms of visibility around my base. Some stuff obviously had to be modified for the game to stay beatable with all those options added. Since everything is randomized and most people usually play with 3 onions, what happens if your spawn has some poison sources around? You would be stuck in base with no convenient way to bring anything back to the ship until you get white Pikmin or Bulbmin. To avoid this issue, poison sources now go on and off just like every other hazard in the vanilla difficulty. Some exploration kit treasures also got an upgrade change, as well as how to find them. Let's go over all of them. Here are the ones without any particular changes. They are all found in their respective bosses compared to the original game. The key acts as it does in challenge mode, making the geyser appear on the map so you can escape. All the other items listed kept their original upgrades. Now, let's see which of the treasures received a few changes. Root knuckles can still be found inside the Mamuta, but a feature from the 2-player battle mode was added to it. After getting the treasure, you can carry bomb rocks by running into them. You can then throw them with A, or simply put them down with B. Spherical Atlas was originally located in Emergence Cave 2. Instead of being in the open just like it was in Pikmin 2, it is now inside Segmented Cropster. Also, since Awakening Wood cannot be unlocked, its effect was modified to be giving the player a permanent 30% carrying speed for all corpses and treasures. The Silencer is now a regular treasure somewhere in the cave. In those 2 clips, the left video benefits from Spherical Atlas, whereas the right one doesn't. I started the timer when the Pikmin count on Doomsday is 50, and stopped the timer when the treasure count changes. The speed change is a lot more apparent with purple Pikmin, but here I use blues for conveniency. The left video clip collected Doomsday in 1 minute and 3 seconds, and the right clip, without the speed upgrade, collected it in 1 minute and 47 seconds. Same goes for geographic projection. It was originally in Awakening Wood and was unlocking Perplexing Pool. It now replaces Rob's head inside Raging Long Legs and reveals the whole map on the pause screen. Particularly large seeds will have a part of the map cut off on the pause screen. All kinds of Pikmin can be obtained at the same time in Colossal Caverns. You might be wondering which ones are the most important or the most useful, so let's see each color in more detail. Red Pikmin are better at fighting. They are useful for bosses where you're not using a spicy spray and for fireball bulbs if you don't have Bulbmin. They have high importance early in the game compared to blues and yellows, assuming you're playing with 3 onions. However, their importance drops to nearly nothing once you grow purples, find some Bulbmin and reach the Pikmin limit. Yellow Pikmin are only useful for Manat Legs, Beady Long Legs and Tighted Weevil. They are also convenient to easily reach treasures up high in some units, which is optional, and doesn't save as much time as you think, simply because purple Pikmin can reach those heights as well, so they do a much better job. Overall, besides all 3 bosses, yellow Pikmin are basically useless. Blue Pikmin are by far the most important of the 3 to grow and keep alive on the long term. Blue Pikmin can go through water, which will make them take the shortest path back to the ship or to their onion. If your goal is to do speedruns and aim for the fastest completion time, Blue Onion should be one of your most important early game priorities. Due to how Colossal Caverns generates the caves, some units can be entirely locked by water, making blue Pikmin even more useful than they already are. 2 sets of 10 Bulbmin are wandering around the whole map. Just like in the original game, Bulbmin are immune against water, fire, poison, and electricity. A new feature was added to them. They can now detect and dig out buried treasures, which means they are the only kind of Pikmin that can detect underwater buried treasures. Back in the earlier versions of Colossal Caverns, they could be rolled down and get killed by Waterwraith, so it was very inconvenient if all of them died and the seed had an underwater buried treasure. Thankfully, it was fixed in the latest update. Now that you learned about Bulbmin being able to detect buried treasures, you can probably tell that whites are far less important than they should be. Their only advantage compared to other types and Bulbmin is their carrying speed and movement speed being the fastest. You can only get 15 of them, so I would say they are still a precious resource, and they should be kept alive for as long as possible. However, due to their decreased importance, it is a fair trade to sacrifice a few whites late in a seed for easy kills on dangerous enemies such as fireball bulbs. Just like whites, you can only obtain 15 purple Pikmin, and their importance is vital to finish an No Treasures 1, since they are all required to defeat Waterwraith. Other than that, they have nothing changed compared to the original game. Their carrying capacity is still 10. They can still stun enemies, and they still deal the most damage if they are not sprayed. This section will be more regarding tricks you can do based on your controls and the kit of abilities available at any moment. You can switch Pikmin colors by holding A and pressing right, left, up or down on the D-pad. There is a difference between pressing specifically right or left, and the difference between pressing specifically up or down. Pressing right will switch to the color closest to you. Pressing left will switch to the color furthest from you. Pressing up will go up in the maturity line, and pressing down will go down in the maturity line. When holding A, the color swap wheel will always be the same. If you're holding a blue Pikmin, the closest from you will be a red, then the next will be a yellow, then the next will be a purple, then the next will be a white, and finally a Bulbmin. If you're holding a Bulbmin and pressing right on the D-pad, you will switch back to blue. One of the color swap uses is that you can make Pikmin walk through walls by swapping to its color. Enemies shake off Pikmin based on the amount of hits they received and not based on the total damage. If you put an enemy that is not a roamer off camera, and if no Pikmin or leader are nearby, the game will think this enemy does not exist. holding R in the original game puts the camera near the ground and lets you view far away. In Colossal Caverns, holding R gives you a top view of a few rooms nearby. This can be useful especially early in a seed to notice things with a unique visual effect, such as raging long legs, tightened weevil, manlet legs, onions, and many more. Some enemies have health regeneration. This can be seen very often on bosses, earned beetles, and toady blisters, but there is actually more of them. Pikmin all have a defined attack power depending on their color. Purple Pikmin have 20 power, reds have 15 power, and all the others have 10. Simply said, corpse limit is the way Pikmin 2 objects are managed. Every object manager in the game has a limit on how many of its objects it can support. Pikhacker explained me he had to find a better value for corpse limit in Colossal Caverns, because the original one was way too low. It is now set to 160 corpses. If you reach this limit and kill an enemy, its dead body will disappear right away. Reaching the limit also means you cannot use knapsack anymore. The way knapsack works is that the game separates your leader into two separate objects. Your leader is now in a sleeping animation, and the captain pellet is created, which counts as a corpse. This captain pellet is actually the object that gets carried back to the onions or ship. Along those lines, there is also a nectar limit of 64. If you reach this limit, no nectar will drop. Auto-plucking is a brand new Pikmin 2 feature included by Pikhacker. If you leave a needle leader near a set of sprouts, it will start plucking automatically. If you do not have enough Pikmin the moment you defeat a boss with an exploration kit item, its treasure weight will be adjusted to the amount of Pikmin remaining in the game. Cystic is probably the most underrated and unused basic control in the game. A good use of Cystic grants you to have total control over what your Pikmin are doing at all times. The key to get better at Cysticking is to practice over and over. Take smaller groups and set up some heavy obstacles, or you have to go between them, or anything else you think will improve your Pikmin control. This is crucial against some bosses, and definitely one of the top priority things to learn and master. Cystic can also be used to bring Pikmin closer to your active leader and increase your shooting speed. The left clip uses Cystic while spamming and kills the 180 red Pikmin in about 22 seconds, and the right clip uses regular shooting speed and kills all reds in 39 seconds. Also, it is good to know that in most cases, yellow onion is going to be the closest from base, whereas blue onion is going to be the furthest. Obviously, there are some cases where blue onion or red onion are the closest. Sprays are extremely useful in many situations. The issue is that you have a low amount of them in each run if you exclude the RNG from the silver eggs, spectralids, and killing petrified enemies. You start with 3 of each kind, and the ways of getting them is limited. I will only talk about the 2 different ways of having guaranteed spicy or bitter drops. The first one is from the hiding beetles. Other Pikmin come in very handy when it comes to get a hit on them due to their pound hitbox being very large. 3 iridescent flint beetles will give 1 drop of flowering nectar on the first hit, and 2 drops of nectar, and finally a drop of spicy spray. 2 iridescent green beetles will give 3 drops of nectar on the first hit, then the last 2 hits will give spicy sprays. The 2 doodlebugs follow the same drops pattern as gold beetles, with the only difference of giving bitter sprays instead of spicy sprays. The second way is from defeating a petrified titan weevil. Even though I said I was not including enemies, this one is different because it will give a guaranteed 10 spray drops. They are random though, so you could get 5 of each, but you could also get 8 bitter drops and 2 spicy drops, for example. Spray duping consists in hitting a spray drop with your idle leader and drink it with the leader you're controlling at the same time, resulting in giving you 2 sprays instead of 1. The first method is to push your idle leader on the drop. It is not very convenient because your leader can randomly jump and avoid the push. The second method is to put a leader on each side of the spray, whistle your idle leader and dismiss it when it's inside the spray drop. The last method is to run towards the drop and press Y right before touching it. The momentum of your first leader will be kept for a few frames and make it drink the drop. You simply have to run in the drop with your second leader. With the spray duping glitch, that means you can reach a total of 11 bitter sprays and 17 spicy sprays without counting the random drops given by silver eggs, petrified enemies, and spectral hits. Another glitch you can use involves using a bitter spray to reset the spicy spray timer. Spicy sprays have a timer of 40 seconds. However, if a spicy spray Pikmin gets in range when you use a bitter spray, this timer will go back to 40. When using a spicy spray, your Pikmin attack value is set to 10, but their attack speed is increased by 80%. No need to do the math, just keep in mind that purple Pikmin are the only ones actually losing damage output compared to regular purple Pikmin. It is only worth to use a spicy spray on purples for their moving speed and carrying speed. In this section, I will not go over the easy enemies that are quick to kill or if they don't have any interesting mechanics worth mentioning. To make things perfectly clear, I will only talk about those. Bulbos are probably the most common enemy to come across since there are a lot of variants of them. Their behavior when sleeping is different, but their aggressive behavior is basically the same. Worth noting right away that Bulbos wake up when any moving enemy bumps into them, such as Wogpols, Bulbmin, red bugs and so on. Orange Bulbos wake up when a Pikmin or leader is nearby. Fire Bulbos can only be damaged by reds, purples and Bulbmin if they are not in a body of water. Also make sure to always keep in mind that Bulbers walk around the map and notice you from a long distance. They are probably one of the most dangerous enemies if you don't notice them and they sneak up on your Pikmin when they are collecting treasures. Bulbos will always try to buy the closest leader or Pikmin. Because of this, you can send a few Pikmin on their sides or on their backs, whistle when they stop spinning because they will try to shake off your Pikmin, and repeat until they are dead. Another method that applies to sleeping Bulbos only is to abuse their sleeping animation by putting them off camera so you can approach them without having the animation to resume, unless you're close or change your camera angle. You can then swarm the Bulborb you want to kill while it is trying to go to sleep. Doing so will deal them a lot of damage and they can't wake up instantly. By the time they wake up, they will be dead. One last important thing to know. Bulbers are the only ones to have an eating animation taking priority over the death. It is also a totally valid strategy to bait any of the Bulbors off the ledge of a metal unit, as it also gets rid of the body. Along with Bulber, Waterwraith and others, Groink is one of the only kinds of enemies that can go around the whole map. Same as Bulber, they can be dangerous if they attack out of your sight. One good way to deal with them is to leave a Pikmin behind the wall just so it keeps shooting against the wall. If you plan to kill them, make sure you have a bread bug or an onion nearby or a bitter spray. Same as Bulbobs and Bulbers, sending them in the void is a valid strategy. I put Withering Blowhogs and Puffy Blowhogs in the list just to point out the differences between them. Puffy Blowhogs have 3000 HP. Their blow stuns your leaders for a short period of time and scatters your Pikmin. Withering Blowhogs only have 1800 HP. Their blow also stuns your leader, scatters your Pikmin and puts them back to leaf state. I would put Withering Blowhogs as the most annoying of the two, only for their ability to turn your Pikmin into leaves. I recommend placing yourself under the tail and spam Pikmin, preferably reds, to get a fast and easy kill. You can also damage Bloisters by throwing purple Pikmin directly on their body instead of aiming for the tail. The most reliable way to kill Chrysanthemum is either with a stun or avoiding their attack then swarm their body. If you are good on numbers or late in a seed, keep in mind that they die to a single white Pikmin poisoning. Also know that they shake Pikmin off super far, which can lead Pikmin being launched off a metal unit or even clipped through walls. Breadbugs are known to steal treasures and enemy bodies to their nest. Giant breadbugs do not have a carrying weight limit, whereas regular breadbugs can carry anything with a maximum weight value of 10. It takes 6 hits to kill a regular breadbug and 20 purple pounds to kill a giant breadbug. You can also kill them by dragging an item to the ship or an onion if they are trying to steal it 2 times. If they successfully steal an item to their nest though, their HP goes back to full. Keep in mind that breadbugs can carry anything through pipe units, and that the only treasures they can steal are the exploration kit items. I will only give a few tips about how they work and some of their specificities. Cannon beetles will always try to shoot at the closest target. Abusing the camera angles can make them unable to shoot you even if you get a bit closer than usual. This trick can be useful for swarming a dangerously placed cannon beetle in a room, or even get enough camera kill. Antenna beetles can be sniped by any Pikmin. It is obviously easier with purples, but if you don't want to risk losing purples, a long throw of any other color right on the beetle will get the job done. It is best to stay far from them and wait until they land to start shooting. If your reaction time is good enough, you can allow yourself staying near its landing area and snipe it from there. The white polywogs can notice your presence from behind, they jump further and are likely to jump around when defending themselves. Those behaviors can also be observed on yellow polywogs, but it is much more uncommon. Be careful, both kinds jump high enough to go over a completely built wall. Now that we saw strategies to fight every important enemy in the game, let's see strategies to fight every boss. Segmented Cropster is by far the most important enemy to find in the game, only for the carrying speed upgrade it will give you. Cropster has its own mechanics. It will only turn towards the target if it's located in its front half. When it hits a wall, a few rocks will fall around the leader you're controlling, and not around Cropster itself. A weird thing to keep in mind is that it can warp through units when rolling over a metal rim or bumping against a wall. Speaking of the metal rim, you can send Cropster in the void if you're not interested in collecting its dead body. Be careful when doing so though. The treasure will respawn at the nearest waypoint, which is not necessarily the unit you're in or a unit you've already visited. With good positioning and good C-stick controlling between falling rocks, it is worth using the spicy spray to get an easy one-cycle fight. I do not recommend doing the strategy used in Null Treasures, which consists in dismissing spicy sprayed Pikmin behind Cropster and send it in a wall. The reason why I don't recommend doing this is because Cropster's angle is different depending on which unit it spawns in. It is much faster to defeat Billy Longlegs with yellow Pikmin. It will always try to move its body towards the nearest leader or Pikmin, which means when you are under the body, you do not need to move to get an easy kill, as you simply need to move the cursor near your leader and spam yellows. The legs will always move in the same order and make a square every 4 steps. So it's actually really easy to predict where the last 2 steps are going to land. BD also takes bomb rod damage and growing damage even if it's physically not there. Only 3 bombs are required to kill it. Bombs deal 500 damage and BLL has 1300 HP. Also, that means it can drop from the sky and immediately die. You can see Raging Longlegs higher if you use the zoom out feature. It will not try to aim directly for your leader or Pikmin though. Raging Longlegs will aim for your direction, walk until it reaches its radius limit, then come back in the middle. One good way to kill Raging Longlegs without wasting time is to abuse the growing to shoot at the wall near its hitbox. It takes damage while you're off doing something else. Another good way is to use Waterwraith. If you can't, then the best way is to fight it legit. You only need 60 Pikmin, a spicy spray and a bitter spray. The way raging long legs work when landing is defined, and every fight will be similar if you follow my strategy. When it drops, it will lower its body 2 times before taking its first step. The strategy relies on abusing how many hits an enemy can take before shaking. If you spam Pikmin right when it lands, you will not get a quick fight. What you need to do is the following. Use a spicy spray, then trigger the fight. Or if you didn't know raging was in there and it drops on you, using a spicy spray after it lands is also fine. The fight will not last 40 seconds anyway. Wait for the first cry to completely end, then you can start spamming Pikmin. I usually spam while spinning so all my Pikmin stay under the body and don't get crushed. Right before it shakes, use a bit of spray and the fight should be over. If you happen to have Raging Longlegs killed when it's not petrified, it will release 20 Mitites. Manatex doesn't crush Pikmin when it walks around. Once again, the legs moving pattern repeats on this boss as well. Not that it matters too much for this one though. It can easily be seen using the zoom out feature thanks to the smoke coming out of its body. When it enters attack mode, it will always try to aim for the closest Pikmin or leader around. Its bullets do not go through walls, so make sure to avoid finding it in a large open space. Also, it is worth noting that it repels Pikmin when shooting. That gives you one more reason to hide when the laser appears. My strategy for this boss relies on yellow Pikmin, a spicy spray and a bitter spray. Note that you can do this strategy with any Pikmin color, but I personally prefer yellows to make sure they grab on the body. Use your spicy spray and spam Pikmin until it starts raising on its legs. Whistle your Pikmin around and get your yellows ready with color swap. When Manat Legs is fully twisted, you can spam your yellows on the body and use the bitter spray right before it starts shooting. Not when it starts aiming at you. And that should be enough to get a clean, quick kill. There is not a lot to say about ranging Blaster honestly. You simply need to always switch leaders to control the color that is not showing on its tail. If it's about to show you blue, you have to switch to red. If it's about to show you red, you have to switch to blue. If it spawns in a metal unit, know that it is one of the only bosses you can bait in the void. Three bomb rocks explosions at the exact same time are enough to kill ranging Blaster. Burrowing Snagret is a fairly easy boss to defeat. There is not that much to say about this one. You need to place yourself in the middle of its spawn range and aim at the head when it goes out of the ground. It is more based on your reaction time than on your overall skill level. Snagrets have a 70% chance of coming out of the ground quickly and a 30% chance to come out slowly. Elite Snagret is a little bit trickier than regular Snagrets in terms of gameplay and game knowledge. The probabilities for coming out of the ground slowly and quickly are the same as regular Snagrets. It is not as scary as people think though. There are 3 different ways of fighting this boss. The first strategy is the classic, safe and slow one. Look for the spot Elite Snagret comes out from, send a few Pikmin, dodge the hit, whistle your Pikmin and then repeat until it dies. As mentioned, this method is safe but time consuming, so it ends up being the slowest of the 3. The second strategy digs in the game mechanics. It is based on the amounts of hits enemies receive before shaking off Pikmin. Let's break the fight down into smaller parts, because I want everyone to fully understand how this one works. First off, let's compare what happens if you start the fight with a spicy spray, compared to if you start the fight without a spicy spray. If you send Pikmin on Elite Snagret's head with a spicy spray, it will go back underground, which is not the outcome you want to see. Not only it wastes overall time, it also wastes time on your spicy spray timer. If you send Pikmin on Elite Snagret's head without a spicy spray, it will try to eat your Pikmin. Ideally, if you sacrifice some Pikmin to increase the damage dealing time frame, you can get a much faster kill. The idea behind this procedure is to split one of your Pikmin colors from the others. This specific Pikmin color will be used to start the fight, whereas all the others will be under spicy spray effect. The third and last strategy is to brute force the fight. Full and short explanation: use a spicy spray, wait for Pilty's Nugget to slowly come out of the ground, say stick and pray for Pikmin to grab on its head, and it's dead. Yes, it is crazy fast, but also very inconsistent for some reasons I don't know. The footage you can see right now was taken from my Ultra's personal best and is played back at 25% speed. You can see Pilty's Nugget dies in about 15 seconds, but since this is played back at 25% speed, it dies in less than 4 seconds. Unfroable Blacks is one of the easiest bosses to fight. Place yourself in front of it, aim right between the eyes and you're set. Be careful though, if you stand too close you will be stunned, and if you stand too far, your Pikmin will not grab on its head. Any color will do as long as your spamming speed is decent. Red Pikmin are obviously more likely to get the kill done if you miss a few shots. With a bit of practice, this boss fight usually doesn't go wrong, so don't panic if you see the eyes from a distance. Note that if you do not get the quick kill on Emperor and he does his roaring attack, all Emperors on the map will wake up. Empress can become one of the trickiest bosses to fight for several reasons: which unit she spawns in, which direction she's spawning babies, and which enemies are around her. For example, Bumbling Snitchbugs and Floating Blowhouse can end up being the worst by far. To get a nice and easy kill, you usually want to keep a spicy spray and a bitter spray. If you rush in an Empress while she is sleeping, she will not take much damage. You have to do this strategy while the Empress is awake. Make sure the babies are either dead or out of reach by using a Pikmin as a bait behind the wall. Use your spicy spray and swarm the body. The Empress is going to shake off your Pikmin, then use your bitter spray right after she is done shaking. Pay a lot of attention to how quickly her HP goes down when she's petrified. For reasons I don't know, she sometimes gets less damage, and you happen to not get the quick kill. It can end up destroying your run if you don't notice in time. Waterwraith is probably the most dangerous enemy. It is programmed to follow leaders, but sometimes it doesn't really care and goes a completely different way, which makes it unpredictable. That can be really bad if it happens to go towards your Pikmin. The easiest way to defeat Waterwraith is to send a purple, then hold up on the C-stick without moving to swarm the Warlords for the first phase. This way, your purples will not attack the Warlords, and you can easily begin the second phase. Once Wraith falls on his back and the falling animation stops, is when you have to send more purples to stun it as soon as possible. You only need around 60 Pikmin to get a quick kill on Waterwraith. Reminder that purple Pikmin are hard required to defeat this boss, and that you can only obtain 15 of them with a standard rule set. Titan Dweevil can easily be located with the zoom out feature as well. It is the only enemy surrounded by a large quantity of fireflies that glow in the dark. The fastest and easiest way to get rid of Titan is to use Waterwraith. However, it can spawn on heights or in units Wraith cannot reach. Using a growing or bomb blocks is always an option, but it will take much longer. If you accidentally wake up Titan, keep in mind that Bulbmin cannot get killed by this boss. They are immune against fire, water, poison and electricity. The speedrun strategy with the spicy spray can result in a surprisingly quick fight. In order to understand how the quick kill happens and what are the mechanics behind it, let's break the fight and Titan into several parts. As shown on the left screenshot, when all weapons have the same amount of remaining HP, Titan will have an equal chance of picking any of them. However, as shown on the right screenshot, when a weapon is at low HP, it will be more likely to be chosen. Please note that besides the basic effects that you already know about each attack, Comedy Bomb is the only one with 33% chance of stunning your leader. All the others are guaranteed. Now that you know about the basics of Titan and how it works, let's see how to fight this boss. Out of all 4 weapons, only electricity will instantly kill Pikmin. You obviously do not want that to happen, so you will want to fight with yellows. Since you will be using yellows, you are immune to electricity, and since you are immune to electricity, you want it to be the most chosen of all weapons, so you can deal damage to the other weapons while Titan is attacking. Now that you also know how you can manipulate the weapon pick's probabilities I just talked about, you can make your fight a lot easier. With electricity not being an issue anymore, you want to keep it on Titan for as long as possible, just so you have 3 windows of time to deal damage, which means Track Therapist will be taken down last. Next, between the other 3 weapons, you probably won't have many issues with Monster Pump. It shoots from far away and is most of the time inaccurate. Since it is not much of a danger, you can put it in 3rd position. The order of the remaining 2 weapons doesn't matter too much. They are both annoying and cover space, preventing you to deal damage to other weapons, so they can be taken down in any order you'd like. If you happen to kill Titan when it is petrified, it will explode into 10 random sprays. Also be wary about bedbugs. They can steal Louis, and giant bedbugs can even steal the weapons. I will not be showing clips of every enemy being collected just to show the amount of seeds given. Here is a full table with the values. You can find it in the resources folder provided in the download link. Same as the seed amounts, I will not go over each and every treasure available. A full table of all treasures can be found in the resources folder. You can find everything in the download. Carrying capacity is a way to visualize how quickly and efficiently you can sort your Pikmin on the corresponding treasures in your surroundings. It follows an easy concept of seeing all of your Pikmin as a number based on their carrying power. In other words, that means purple Pikmin are worth 10 and all other colors are worth only 1. The best way to get better at it is to practice with random numbers during the fully cleared seed or even in the original game. For example, let's say you have 66 Pikmin and you notice that 4 of them are purples. Then you can quickly do the math in your head because you have all the info you need. 4 purples will have a carrying power of 40, then add the 62 remaining Pikmin of your party, which results in 102. Keep in mind to keep 1 Pikmin for a free treat to the onion thanks to the knapsack ability. Now your true final value is 101. Counting follows the same concept as calculating your total carrying capacity, but with treasure weights. By mixing total carrying capacity and counting, you can then very easily know if you are short on Pikmin or if you have too many. The whole point is to know ahead of time whether you will have to come back in the area later or not. If you are left with a small group of Pikmin, it is better to load the last few treasures you are aiming for, instead of going into battle with too few units by your side and risking some death. That way, those last few Pikmin will not stay inactive in a corner of the map until you come back to them. Okay, so this will be like a live clip of me using treasure carrying capacity and counting and stuff, and how I usually play during a seed. So first off, I'm pausing the screen just so you see that the yellow onion is the closest from base, so I'm gonna want to send both of my leaders to yellow onion, and yeah, let's do it. So what I recommend doing for like sorting your Pikmin and stuff is that you just put all of your Pikmin again behind the wall with the second leader, and then you just go very, very far away. Like, I'm gonna go far in this room until all of my Pikmin are dismissed. Okay, like this. And then you come back in the group and you just bump into like a bunch of Pikmin, and then you can start practicing. So let's do it. I'm gonna want about, let's say, between 80 and 100 Pikmin, because that's gonna be like about half of my whole group. So let's do it. Okay, 84 is good. I'm gonna whistle those guys with the second leader because some of the treasures are gonna go this way. You usually don't do that, but for this it's just practice, it's fine. And now you just tell the numbers of treasure weights in your mind, Or you can just say them out loud, but then with practice it's gonna be nearly automatic. So this one is 10, this one over there is 10. You want to get rid of your purples first because they move the slowest to come back to base. So this one is 25. This one over there is 1. Also, you want to look at your Pikmin count instead of waiting for Pikmin to land on the treasures and grab and whatnot, because your Pikmin count automatically updates when you throw Pikmin. So right now, I know this one is only 10. So right now, this one is 15. But I know I have 67 Pikmin, so I have to throw Pikmin until I have 52. So 3 more. I didn't even look at the treasure over there. This one is 5, but it's buried. This one is 5. This one is 5. And so when you have when you start having a low Pikmin count, I suggest you just send a Pikmin on the side. Like right there, I want to go back to yellow onion. So I'm just gonna send a yellow on the side. And I'm not gonna use this one for treasures. So I'm gonna have 30 Pikmin. This one is 10, this one is 10, and those two in the corners are 5. So I can just do 1. Now I have 30. That's 10. That's 10. Yeah, 10. That's 5. That's 5, and I can attack. Units knowledge is a particularly important topic to talk about. Knowing what you are able to do in some rooms can help you get out of a complicated situation. The regular units are the snow, sand, soil, tile, and metal ones. All garden and toy box units are extra units exclusives. Because of how the game generates seeds, the huge rooms with only one exit are the least common, such as Raging Longlegs Arena or Manatlegs Arena. A few particular things about some of the units. Thanks to some precise throws, you can send purple Pikmin up some unit parts that can normally be reached by yellow Pikmin only. All entities can clip from a metal unit to another type of unit. This can be incredibly useful to bring dangerous enemies on their own and have them killed, or incredibly dangerous to have a bulb clip inside in the middle of a fight. Even Pikmin can be sent from a metal unit to another unit. I used that a few times in my personal best run to skip going around hallways and save some time. Last and probably the most important thing to talk about in this section. Be aware of the units in your surroundings and how they are placed. Some areas can be forcing the use of blue Pikmin, which we call waterlogged areas. In the following pictures of units, boss spawns will be marked in orange. You can find all possible spawns of Colossal Caverns as a picture in the description's download link. The next thing I want to talk about is the priorities. Knowing what to focus solely in the game to give you a guideline or some ideas about how you want to make your way to complete your goals is vital and will make a huge difference compared to randomly running in the cave. For that matter, it will depend a lot on your preferences, playstyle or goal. For my personal case, I play fast and mostly safe. I use strategies that will have the most potential to keep my Pikmin alive in each specific case I am facing. I play like this to avoid having to grow more Pikmin later in the run, because I think it is a time loss. Even if you have the Pluckophone upgrade, you need Pikmin to bring corpses back to the onions, and those Pikmin cannot be used to bring treasures back. But sometimes you must play risky to get out of a tough situation, so I tend to take risks only if I absolutely have to, and only if it is worth losing a few Pikmin to save a lot of time. Once again, this is the way I play, and you will not have the same reaction time, strategies or ideas as me. Back to priorities though, if I had to list a few things, I usually go towards Blue Onion as soon as I can, and try to swipe as many boss rooms as possible on my way there to try to find crop stuff for the carrying speed upgrade. If I get more upgrades on the way though, it is always good to take them. Enemies on the way will be defeated as well, leaving treasures free from any danger and easy to collect. If possible, try to zoom out every now and then, see if you can notice mana attacks from its smoke, and fully benefit early in the run of the light upgrade. It will make it easier to notice the different boss rooms around as well as other important stuff. In this section, I would like to go over how to be efficient because it is another very important topic to talk about. Efficiency can be seen as, what can I do to have my Pikmin more active at all times? Or even, how do I make it such that I don't have times where I just run around and be stuck for a few minutes? That one is a tough question, to be completely honest. With Colossal Caverns maps being so big, you will be inefficient at some point in your runs, unless you have things perfectly planned in your mind and luck on your side. However, there are a few things you should do to be more efficient. For example, you can keep track of how many ranging blisters you have killed, the color of the onion that's the closest to the ship, and if you obtain the knapsack ability or not. The two ranging blisters are the only enemies in the game that require both leaders to be killed easily. If they are dead, you can set your Pikmin to bring treasures back and keep one Pikmin of the onion's color with you to use the knapsack and have a free trip close to the ship. It will save you all the time you would take walking from where you are back to the base and searching your way. And by switching leaders, you can take the Pikmin at the base with you to move on and keep being productive. Another example would be to get a quick look at what is waiting in the next room while collecting treasures. That way, you will have a vision of what is dangerous and what to prioritize next. The more you play, the more you will be able to keep track of things. Using Waterwraith sounds like a crazy idea, doesn't it? You know it can kill anything and follows leaders, so why not use it to your advantage? Waterwraith will destroy absolutely everything. A few particular cases. Cropster and Anode Beetles need to be flipped to get damaged. Underground enemies have to be out of their hiding spots. You can use treasures to get more height and reach flying enemies. The crown, the pumpkin and the fossilized bear are good examples of treasures you can use. Waterwraith can get stuck inside metal corridors, preventing any use of his instant kills. The only way to free Wraith is to use treasures to push him out or bring a builder to him. This is the end of the guide. I would like to end it by thanking a few people who played their part into making the guide what it is. It would have taken me a lot more time if I were to do that and check everything by myself. Thanks to Pikhacker for developing Colossal Caverns, also for very kindly providing precious and valuable information about the game mechanics and all the values I asked for. Lily and Bran for making a really quick review of everything that needed to be checked, changed or added, and for helping me sort the guide sections better. Thanks to Marie Mouette for the written guide's cover picture and for my profile icon. Thanks to the whole Colossal Caverns community for being active, nice and welcoming towards each other and towards newcomers ever since the hack was released and the thought of doing speedruns was shared. And finally, thank you for watching this video. I sincerely hope it will help you in your journey. We all hope to see you among us very soon.